Nick, welcome back to Down the Stretch.
Thanks. It's always a pleasure to be with you guys.
First of all, congratulations on having 3 legitimate contenders for the Midsummer Derby. How's it feel?
It feels good, and like I told my staff to help, the people that work for us, that hey, whatever happens Saturday, you guys did a great job, and women, obviously, and I appreciate that immensely, and you're part of history. I mean, you run 3 legitimate horses, and they'll remember that. A lot of people will remember the 2004 horses, whether Zito wins or not. They'll say, well, I know you had a bunch of horses in there. So that's good. Yeah.
Well, let's get the interview kicked off with the Belmont Stakes hero, Birdstone, and for that, my partner, Mike.
And he's my hero, too, and I get the pleasure of talking about Birdstone with Nick on Travers Weekend. Nick, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. I think it would be important to tell our audience why he hasn't run since the Belmont Stakes.
Sure, and it's a legitimate question. Birdstone, as you know by now, and it's interesting because I'll stay on the same subject, but
sure.
Patrick being Cohn said, my God, what did you do to this horse? He looks like a monster. And if you look at Birdstone, he's still small,
Sure.
and whatever, but the time has really helped him. He's got some good muscle on him now, and he's not a very big horse. And if you look at all his races, for the fans out there, if they just look at the chart, look at the form of the races, he certainly runs better when he has time in between. That obviously is because of his size. We call him little man around the racetrack, but I'll tell you what, he may be little man, but he's probably got the biggest heart. So that's basically why we did this. And the other thing is, we wanted to give Mary Lou and John, Mary Lou's husband, John Hendrickson, a legitimate shot at the Travers. I thought, forever, if I run this horse before, he's going to fire his race and then he has to come back 3 weeks. In other words, running into Jim Dandy or the Haskell. So sometimes you're dealt with cards. You can't throw them in. You got to keep them. And that's what we did. And we think we got a really good chance with him, and that's why, the time.
Was there any thought of the Whitney?
There always is because of who it's named,
Sure.
for and everything,
I'm going to ask
There's
you
always,
a question.
sure. It's always thought. But on the other hand, Mike, he would have never been able to come back in this race. And it's a special race, the Travers, and you guys have done a great job over the years promoting it. And everybody knows, and your column the other day pointed out, I remember as a kid, the Mac Millers, the Elliott Birches, the Sil Beaches, Shug McGay's Easy Goer. I mean, I still remember that 89. That was a monstrous. I always said to myself, boy, that Travers, is really something. So, that's what we wanted to do, give Birdstone the best shot.
As you did for the Belmont, you brought him back home to Saratoga to prepare for the Travers. How have his breezes and gallops been at the Oklahoma this summer?
He's an amazing horse. I told Mary Lou this, and she gets a kick out of it. I said, Mary Lou, he actually trains himself. I have a great person that rides him, Maxine, Correa. She rides him, and she does a great job, and, but he actually trains himself. And all my people at the barn, they do a great job. Ronaldo and, Jose is groom, and Ronaldo's there day and night babysitting him. But that horse trains himself. I mean, he's just that type of horse. And it's a gift, and
I understand,
there's not much effort on our part. He does it.
Tough question. He was brilliant here last summer. I know how much you folks love him. We know what he's got as talent. Was there a disappointment after the Derby? What were your thoughts after that? I mean, there was a fiasco in all of the shoes, but tell us a little bit about your mindset coming home from that.
If you look at the Derby, when the gates open, immediately you'll see him get jostled around. If you got the tape of the Derby, you'll see it. He gets jostled around. He's in all kinds of trouble. He loses his shoe, and he finishes 8th, not 18th.
Not 18th.
Like I kept saying.
Yeah.
So, remarkably, he came back with a tremendous Belmont because we didn't lose faith in him. Whitney's didn't lose faith in him. They let me proceed to the big event, which I really, I like the Whitneys so much, but I like the fact they're not afraid to run. I like that. You know, a lot of owners that, it's I don't know, it's hard to explain, but they're always afraid to run. And they're like farmers are that way too. I have good owners, as you know by now, but I like that fact that they wanted to run. So.
Nick, this is a fascinating edition of the Travers. I mean, it really has everything. This is everything but the winner of the Derby and Preakness. It's got speed with Lionheart. It's got tracking speed with Purge. You've got everything in your barn for it. Any instructions for Edgar as to your tactical strategy?
ESPN came by today and asked me that question for all three jockeys, and I basically told them I don't think I'll tell the jockeys anything. Mm-hmm. And the reason is that all three jockeys know the horse. They know their styles, and especially Birdstone. Edgar knows him. Mm-hmm. He broke his maiden up here by a lot of lengths. Mm-hmm. And he won the Belmont Stakes on him, and he knows the horse. So I don't really have too much instruction, to be honest with you.
Well, Mark wants to talk to you. He's got one Birdstone question, and he wants to round out your talented troika heading into the Travers tomorrow.
Actually, a couple of questions before we leave Birdstone. First off, Nick, we know that his poorest effort to date was over that sealed racetrack at Turfway. Yeah. Let's face it, he's supposed to beat those horses standing still, and he ran poorly. Ladies and gentlemen, we're taping on Friday morning. Nick, if by some chance at post time tomorrow afternoon it's a sealed racetrack here at Saratoga, will Birdstone run?
I told you before, I'm a very positive person. I don't like to put that remark into the equation because it's a negative thing.
But now, it's a possibility.
Wait a second. Yeah. Well, let's look at the other possibility. The races run at 6:25. Okay?
Yeah.
That's a long time, between drinks, as they say. So what I'd like to see is, look, you can't tell God don't let it rain. You can't put a dome on the track. The one thing about it is I have owners that have one thing in mind, the horse. Okay. If they're not comfortable for the track, unfortunately, and I'm glad we're taping this, like I say, I'm a positive person, not a negative person, then the decision might have to be made. But I don't like to go there now, but I'm glad you might as well say it because it's a possibility.
It is. The way this meet's been going with the weather.
Put it this way, John called me up, Mary Lou's husband, you guys know him by now. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows John. And he said, Nick, you know what? If the Belmont Stakes is a sealed track, that would be 3 sealed tracks in a row. I don't think it's fair to our horse. I said, whatever you say, John. Thank God it did rain. Now the rain was around, and it gets better. They had predicted rain.
Oh, sure.
Look, one thing is for sure. Believe it or not, I started off fair. I am the worst handicapper in the history of the game.
No, the guy in your lap.
No, believe me. This track, I'm telling you, I go into Grandson, people see me, I walk out, I make a few late doubles. I mean, they're last, next to last, whatever. But the weathermen are worse than me. I promise you.
I don't think there's any question about that.
So let's look for a positive thing. And but again, the horse's well-being is the main thing. I hope it doesn't happen. But if it did happen, I'm sure they'd have to address it. But we'll see what they say.
All right. One final question on Birdstone. I want you to quantify something for the audience.
Yeah.
On a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being as good as you could have him, as good as he could be doing health-wise, what's his number heading into this afternoon's Travers?
Whether I'm right or wrong, people know I'm honest, right?
I know that.
I'd say 11 and a half.
I know that.
That's what I'd say, 11 and a half. So that's all I can say.
Okay,
whether I lose or not. I mean, listen, you got to go around. Smarty Jones was 1 to a million, and he lost. I mean, but this horse couldn't be any better.
Okay. All right.
That's it.
Now, by the way, you said he trains himself, so for Mary Lou and John, I guess the day rate's going to be dropped since he trains himself. Let's move on to the Cliff's Edge. Huge winner of the Bluegrass earlier this year. Freshened after the Derby, came back with a good second chasing medalist in the Dwyer and a good second chasing Purge over the track in the Jim Dandy. Third start off the form cycle. Do you expect improvement today?
Oh, definitely. And again, so grateful to have a horse like Cliff. And again, Miss Latenta owns him. Good people, good family. Got it made with those types of people. And, I think it actually shows, Mike and Mark in the races. I have a feeling there's something to that. When you have good karma in the barn, got owners that have a lot of faith in you. And Cliff has been just a joy. And, it's amazing. He's another worthy horse. Certainly worthy of winning the Travers, because Preakness time we thought, oh my God, we had that terrible bruise and didn't look good at all.
Right.
And he came back and ran an unbelievable Dwyer and an unbelievable Jim Dandy. So he always runs a good race, and certainly a worthy horse, and he's doing exceptionally well. I'm not going to give you any figures, because what can happen. You can only be once right. He's going to be once right once. But he's doing extremely well, too.
And finally, a colt who seems to get better with every start, as witnessed by his victory in the recent West Virginia Derby, which I believe was worth $600,000. Thank goodness for West Virginia. Sir Shackleton seems to be coming into his own, seems to be on the improve. Would that be accurate?
No question about it. And people that own that horse, the farmers, Tracy and Carol Farmer, witnessed with me their horse Albert the Great, closest Travers I think you'll ever see. And it was a 9-minute race in my mind. I kept telling everybody it was the longest race I've ever witnessed or been in, because he had it won from the start to finish in the very last jump. And Shackleton is a 3-year-old that he's just come leaps and bounds. So he's capable. He can win the race too. And the reason I'm talking, they're my horses.
Yeah.
They belong to the owners. They own the horses. But I coach them. I'm responsible for them. I know what they're doing, and they're doing extremely well. So I'm sure Purge is doing extremely well. I'm sure Lionheart's doing extremely well. Probably Ellington, probably Swap. But the thing is, it should be a battle, because I know we're ready to fight, and I'm sure those other horses are ready to fight. So whatever it is, everybody says this or that. We'll take one from the stable, but whatever happens. And even if it doesn't happen, I know these horses are prepared extremely well.
How difficult is it for you to be saddling 3 horses for 3 different owners in such a prestigious race?
Well, Mark, I look at it this way. I think it's less difficult having more than having less. And the reason I think this is, this is a sport of kings. This is how they start. They started this game many, many years ago. My horse could beat yours. That's how they said. We're fortunate enough. We have a reputation of training young horses, right, Michael? And this is what we like to do. They happen to be owned by 3 different owners. There's no way you could separate them. They all belong in this particular race. They're all owned by great people, sportsmen. No one gives me a hard time.
Okay.
No one has said anything.
Okay.
So it's not really difficult at all. Now, if we don't win with one of them, it could be difficult that night. You know what I mean? Because you got 3 explanations instead of 2. So it could even be worse than that.
You're not supposed to go negative.
Yeah, right. I don't want to go 0 for 3, but you know what? It's happened. We'll see what happens.
You brought it up a few moments ago. 4 years ago, it had to be an absolutely excruciating loss with Albert the Great and the Travers. Considering that, what would it mean to Nick Zito to win the Travers?
Well, Mark, I can look in that camera and tell everybody. I get along with a lot of people, as you know. I get more votes than most trainers, because I think you talk from here, you don't talk from here.
Right.
A lot of trainers, they say, I used to do that 15 years ago for sure. I started talking with here. Talk from here, you're always better off. I think winning it would be the ultimate, but to be in the race, to do what we've accomplished, I can't ask for anything more than that. Sure, to win the Travers would be unbelievable, but men upstairs have been so good to me. And you know what? Tom Durkin had a cute line. He said, well, you only got 3 in the Travers. And I said, well, let's see what happens next year. No. But what I mean is that if it's not this year, it'll be next year. If it's not next year, it's the year. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But yes, it would mean a lot. Because when you're a trainer or a coach or whatever, or a doctor. You want to be certainly recognized as one of the best you can be. And by doing those particular procedures, Dr. DeVakey was obviously the heart doctor. So many great coaches and managers, were this, Joe Torre right now, for the Yankees. So it would be great that way. But is it a overriding symbol of, we can't do anything if we don't? No, but I'm grateful to being there, and that's all I can say.
Well, Coach Zito, we thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule to have joined us this morning on Down the Stretch. We wish you all the best with the Cliff's Edge and Sir Shackleton and Birdstone and this afternoon's Travers. We hope they run well for you and come out of the race.
Well, thank you. That's the most important thing, and thanks. I always enjoy being with you guys. I'm very relaxed, as you can see, and I always have a good time.
Nick, thanks again.
Thank you,
Nick
guys.
Zito, ladies and gentlemen. That may have been the most relaxed interview we ever did.
Yes.
And he kept saying to me, I got to get out of here quick.
Well, we're glad he did.
We're
glad
really,
he did.
really pleased
Thank you
you
for your
could do
time,
that.
Nick.
Thank you, Nick. And let's face it, I did something very important. I saved Mary Lou Whitney money. She doesn't have to pay the date rate.
That's right.
As long as Birdstone
Yes.
trains himself, she doesn't have to pay it. Nick, thank you so much. All right, we're up to our final break on this morning's Travers Day edition of Down the Stretch. When Michael and I return, we're going to take a look at a race from New Jersey, take a look at this afternoon's Travers field, and we will let you know that there won't be replays at the bottom of the hour because of the early post today for Travers Day. But as we go to this final break, we're going to go out to Del Mar for the Pacific Classic. I personally have a tremendous amount of respect for both Dick Mandela as well as his sensational racehorse, Pleasantly Perfect. So